All right, so now that we have an idea of what organizations and user groups are and how we can create them on the platform, let's talk about some strategies for these different kinds of groupings of users, okay? In general, I would say that it's good to use both of these in tandem to meet any individual use case that you might have when it comes to grouping users, okay? With organizations, obviously, because this is a structure that represents a hierarchy, some sort of a business hierarchy, if you have a business hierarchy that you want to represent, it obviously makes sense to use organizations as your primary way of grouping users, okay? Now, we'll talk about these in more detail, but keep in mind as well that organizations can also have sites attached to them as well. So if you need anyone in that organizational structure to have a particular site, that's also a good use case for organizations as well. Okay, so for example, we talked about Livingston having a number of hotels and resorts, and perhaps they need to have their own hotel and resort site, okay, for getting a room or booking travel or anything along those lines. You can actually do that within the organization structure as well. So keep that in mind. This is going to represent the hierarchy. Anytime you need that kind of hierarchy with your users and you want to give them their own sort of workspace, you can do that as well. User groups, like I've already mentioned, these are going to be across the organizational structure. And the use case for this is generally if you want to take users from within the organization structure and group them into different topics or groups where you want to give them a specific workspace as well. Okay, so I already mentioned this, but again, if you want to provide a special dashboard for a group of users that have sort of a commonality or some sort of a unity, you can do that. Okay, so if we had the Livingston Hotels and Resorts organization structure with all of the hotel and resort organizations, we can provide user groups for the managers or perhaps for those responsible for ordering the different amenities that you have in the different hotels or administration or anything along those lines. You can group them, you can give them their own workspace where they can work together, and it doesn't have to be within the organization structure, it can be outside of the organization structure as well. Okay, so grouping these together and using these different things together, you can really accurately represent whatever your business structure is, both the hierarchy and the other groups within the hierarchy. And this just makes administration of your user grouping a lot easier as well. Okay, so again, you can use either one or the other, but it's generally recommended that if there is a reason for using both, that you do use both to, again, accurately represent that business structure that you have. Okay, so just to summarize, again, organizations are a hierarchy. They're a structure that are meant to represent your business hierarchy. User groups are outside of the hierarchy structure. They're for more specific groupings that you can use to designate sort of a workspace for a more specific group. Okay, you can use them together to, again, accurately represent your fuller business context, both the hierarchy, the organization itself, as well as the different groupings within that hierarchy. So with that, we move to the next chapter where we will go ahead and talk about sites. See you there.